Mr. Chair. Yeah. I think Delegate Martinez was just hoping a different face would get a different reaction to that bill. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, HB110 relates to surrogacy in Virginia. It was 33 years ago when Virginia became one of the first states to adopt a law overseeing surrogacy. And this, of course, is for helping Virginians who want to start or grow their families have a child through a surrogate. At the time, it was new, sort of cutting-edge health care, a new cutting-edge health care option. And Virginia is still one of only 20 states or so which have such laws. And Virginia's statute and rules are among the most extensive and detailed in the country, particularly with regard to protecting the interests of the woman who's going to serve as the carrier. Between our statute and the strict guidelines of the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, for instance, Mr. Chair, there's a statutory prohibition on compensating the carrier beyond her reasonable and ancillary costs. And the statute makes very clear that any surrogacy contract providing her compensation beyond that is void and unenforceable. There's an extensive psychological evaluation required and professional counseling of all the parties and a specific assessment by a mental health professional to ensure there's been no financial or emotional coercion of the carrier. The carrier also has to have independent legal counsel from the very start of the arrangement through the pregnancy and the parentage part. So none of these protections of the carrier or the many others that we have in the statute are changed by HB 110. What HB 110 does is remove one portion of the surrogacy code which is outdated, has never been used, and is the only one of its kind in the country. No other state has this statute. Most importantly, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, and the problem that this bill is meant to solve is that this portion of the code has the unintended consequence of chilling Virginia families' access to surrogacy. What Section 110 would repeal is Section 20-165, and that creates a crime for accepting compensation for matching prospective parents with prospective surrogates and for arranging for prospective parents and surrogates to enter into a surrogacy contract. Yet, of course, that's precisely what the rest of the statute provides, how prospective parents and surrogates can enter into such a contract and what that contract has to include. So, Mr. Chair, the statute creates a sort of internal inconsistent gray area which has the effect of frightening off potential parents who are worried about being implicated in some sort of crime or aiding and abetting the commission of a crime when the lawyers, as is their obligation, have to tell these parents about the existence of this statute. It creates confusion and uncertainty for Virginians who want to expand their families. And, Mr. Chairman, that uncertainty has led a number of national surrogacy groups which help potential parents navigate surrogacy laws, rate Virginia as among the worst states for surrogacy in the country. This statute, I want to say again, has never been used in Virginia. The bill has no opposition from law enforcement or from the Attorney General or from the Commonwealth.
Is there any opposition to the bill at all? Okay, the Catholic Conference wants to speak. Two on each side. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Tom Antorsian. I'm with the Virginia Catholic Conference, as you stated, and we are opposed to this bill primarily because the wisdom of the General Assembly when it enacted Code Section 20-165 was such that the General Assembly made a policy decision not to authorize commercial brokers to participate in gestational surrogacy. We now have gestational surrogacy in Virginia. And so they did that with good reason. And the reason that they did that was because, and the statute is very plain, it says that it is unlawful for any person, firm, corporation, partnership, or other entity to accept compensation for recruiting or procuring surrogates or to accept compensation for otherwise arranging or inducing.
Isn't it so that nobody's ever been prosecuted under this code section?
You know, sir, I can't speak to that. I'd have to ask VACA about that.
Okay.
But what I can say is that the provision carries with it both a criminal penalty and a civil liability provision
But the
as
point is,
well,
it's never
treble
been-
damages.
It's never been utilized.
And there again, I can't speak to that, sir. Only Vaca could speak to that.
Okay.
But I respect the question.
Okay,
I
thank
think
you.
it's a fair question. Thank you. So that's in Part A. Is it talks about you can't procure surrogates. Brokers cannot procure surrogates. And if you do so, it's a Class 1 misdemeanor. In Sub B, it says that any person who acts as a surrogate broker in violation of this section shall, in addition, be liable to all the parties to the purported surrogacy contract in a total amount equal to 3 times the amount of compensation to have been paid to the broker pursuant to the contract, and et cetera. So that's a treble damages, right? So, but the key language that I want to focus in here is to accept compensation for, pardon me, I'll wrap up. Okay. To accept compensation for recruiting or procuring surrogates, or to accept compensation for otherwise arranging or inducing. That's the key word in this statute.
Mr.
We don't
Corsi-
want brokers inducing surrogacy contracts.
It's true that no other state has this language as in effect.
We're a yellow. Let me answer your question, Mr. Chair. We are what is defined as a yellow light jurisdiction in gestational surrogacy. We're not the worst. We're somewhere in the middle. And I think most people would agree that being in the middle is a good place to be, and we should stay there.
But we're the only state with this sort of provision.
We are not the only state with limits on commercial surrogacy, sir. And I can show you that from a site that I've been referring to.
Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you.
And we're out of time, so just come up, and if you've got something different to say, you can say it, but otherwise just identify yourself and your group.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, of course, I'm Olivia Turner, president of Virginia Society of Human Life. We are not taking a position for or against surrogacy. We are concerned for women in the Commonwealth and families who may find themselves in situations where they do need to have access to some kind of financial gain or situation that they benefit from. The brokers will ultimately be in a situation that we think could lead ultimately, sadly, to violations of human trafficking. There are vulnerable populations now coming into Virginia. There are populations that don't speak the language very well, of English as their common language. My concern is for women. My concern is always for the women, and my concern is also for the couples who may find themselves being manipulated by brokers and those recruiting women who are too vulnerable to know what our laws actually are. Okay. So that's our concern.
Thank you, ma'am. Next. Please, only if you have something different.
Sure. Well, and we agree with those comments. I just want to make just 3 very brief.
Identify yourself and your group first.
Todd Gackey on behalf of the Family Foundation. One is within this bill, there is no limits on the amount that these organizations can help or can charge in facilitating these surrogacy contracts, which could lead to coercion and exploitation. The second is there are nonprofits out there that help do this, so there is no need to put in place some type of monetary. Okay. And we think that the provisions that were put in place in 1991 were for a good reason, and we would ask that this body not change that.
Thank you so much. Delegate Sullivan, am I right that no other state does it like this?
That is correct.
No other state has this kind of language on the books.
That is correct, Mr. Chair. By the way, I have a subject matter expert with me.
I understand there's somebody else.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Stewart.
can I just ask RIP to address what they said about the concerns of taking advantage of folks and human trafficking? And can you address that for me?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to. As I tried to indicate in my opening remarks, our bill is probably better than any state in the country on protecting the rights of a woman who is going to serve as a carrier. She has to have counseling. She has to have her own lawyer. There's a team of people that make sure she is not being coerced into doing this. She is not allowed to be paid any more than her own expenses. And if she is, the contract goes kaflooey. And so the parents these of course are parents who want this child. The parents are going to make sure that doesn't happen as well. So there are a lot of protections for the carrier built into our statute already. And what this does is stand as a roadblock to people using it.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Dugal is next, but I want to make sure that Senator Stewart gets his question answered.
Well, if he's finished, I appreciate him responding to that.
Yeah.
That was the only question I have, but I'd like to let Delegate Sullivan finish his response.
I did have one other point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senator Stewart. I don't doubt the motivations of the General Assembly 33 years ago, but then was the very beginning. People were just sort of inventing surrogacy. And we live in a very different time now. There are 800 facilities around the country that do this. And the specialty that is surrogacy and in vitro and all those sorts of assistance to couples is a specialty that's matured. This is a medical specialty. No other state has seen any bad behavior associated with this. Our statute protects these women. And we want to be able to encourage surrogacy rather than discourage it, and that's why I hope you'll pass this bill.
Okay, Senator McDougall.
Mr. Chairman, tell me, do any other states have a prohibition on the brokerage? I think I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think many of us see the benefits of surrogacy and how for a number of people that can be the only way. But the concern is around the brokers. So do any other states prohibit brokers?
Mr. Chairman, my understanding, Senator, is the answer is no. No other state has, and so 49 other states, the District of Columbia, have been doing this for a long, long time. No one has, the way I look at it is no one has felt the need to replicate our statute, has seen this as a problem anywhere. And if you look at the statute and read it carefully, broker, by the way, is only one way they describe it. What it says is, accept any compensation. Someone mentioned nonprofits. The only compensation here, doctors who do this get compensated in the way that your heart surgeon gets compensated when he or she operates on your heart, or when your internist gets compensated when they prescribe you medicine. They provide a medical service. And they get compensated for it. What it says is to accept compensation or arrange an intended parent and surrogate to enter into a surrogacy contract. That's what these people do, is they help parents and a surrogate enter into a contract and perform this little miracle. And this statute makes people take pause here in Virginia and, frankly, go other places to accomplish the same thing.
Okay, I think there's another question that was hand raised. Peak?
Mr. Chair, Delegate Sullivan, has anybody raised a concern about this? Has it come up from a group or any entity? How'd you get this?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Senator Peake. The answer to that is yes. I'm not here to tell you that any particular, that I'm coming with the imprimatur of a particular group, but this is an issue, and I do have someone I know the committee will want to hear from, who talks and will tell the committee about clients that she has to counsel. Frankly, any client would be concerned about that, but consider someone, for instance, with a security clearance, or some other sensitive job, or anybody, a teacher. And when you have to counsel this couple, if you want to do this, I have to tell you, there's this statute that says this is a crime, or this whole, someone helping you accomplish a surrogacy contract is a crime. Never been done before, but it's out there. People get nervous. And are concerned that they cannot do this. And I'd love to hear Ms. Quinn tell you better than I. But Senator Peake is why I'm here. I'm trying to make sure that everyone has their chance if they want it.
Senator Stanley, do you have a question? Senator Deeds mentioned you might have had one while I was gone.
Mr. Chairman, it was answered in the conversation. Thank you.
Great. My understanding is we haven't taken support yet, right?
Yeah. Colleen Quinn is with me here, Mr. Chair, who I think it's fair to say is the state's premier authority on all things adoption and surrogacy.
Yep. Did we set it, what, 2 minutes before?
2 minutes plus, there was 2 minutes and 18 seconds.
Okay, yeah, set it whatever we just did for opposition. Ms. Quinn, come on up. I was wondering why I saw you here last week, 2 weeks ago.
Good afternoon, Chairman Sorovel and fellow committee members. My name is Colleen Quinn. I'm the former president of the Academy of Adoption and Assisted Reproduction Attorneys, which is the national and international academy in this area. I also have been in practice in Richmond for 35 years. I run the Adoption Surrogacy Law Center. I teach nationally on surrogacy, and I've worked with literally thousands and thousands of clients seeking to build their families. I just wanted to give you one quick, simple example of the adverse impact that this statute has. First of all, I want to tell you this provision is simply not enforced. I've spoken to numerous Commonwealth attorneys, including Colette McKeechin here in Richmond, Shannon Taylor in Henrico. They're not aware of the statute. They're not interested in the statute. They don't want to enforce the statute. It's simply not enforced, and we have more than 800 programs throughout the United States, including in Virginia, operating and making sure that intended parents can connect with surrogates. By way of a quick example, I met with a couple just within the last few weeks. Dr. Anish Shaw at Shady Grove sent them over to me. He told them to come to me first before doing anything else, but they had signed up with Fairfax Surrogacy. When they came to me, I told them about this statute. The intended mother had a cancer. She had a hysterectomy. She was unable to carry a child herself. The intended father had a high-level security clearance with the government. And when I told them that technically they were aiding and abetting and accomplices in this statute, which all my Commonwealth attorney friends say my interpretation is correct, the intended father, he began to freak out because of his high-level security clearance. And this is what the statute does. It has the effect of chilling our families from being able to find somebody to carry a child for them. As Delegate Sullivan already said, our statute is the most conservative. It is still good. We're still going to be a yellow state. And by the way, 45 or 46% of the other states, 46 states are green states, okay? So we're in the minority, and we're going to stay in the minority. Even if we take this away, we still have enormous restrictions on what can be reimbursed to a carrier. It's not going to change. We're going to still be very conservative. But on this Valentine's Day, I would say please show your love for Virginia citizens. These folks are facing fertility issues, being able to build their families, and they don't need this added stress. This is already a very stressful process for them. So please show your love and support House Bill 110, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
All right, we got a minute 45 left. Anybody have any questions for this expert? Doesn't look like it. Thank you, Ms. Quinn.
Thank you, Delegate.
Is there anybody else here to
Chairman
testify in
Sullivan.
favor? Anybody online in favor?
Mr. Chair, there's no one online to speak at this time.
I didn't think to invoke Valentine's Day.
You're welcome. All right. It's been moved by Senator Deed, seconded by Senator Boysko. We report the bills. Any further discussion? Clerk will open the roll.
Ayes 10, noes 5.
There you go, Delegate Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
All right, next up I have Delegate Delaney.